John Forslund had the opener off because Seattle was a national game. He will, I guess, meet the team in Minnesota for Saturday's game, but he's busy otherwise. Voice of the Kraken, voice of Prime Monday in Canada, TNT Hockey, Sports USA Radio. John, you need more to do.
Yeah, anybody wants to hire me, you can give them my number, and we'll take it from there.
You work parties too, and you are.
I do. I do, and I know when to leave also.
All right, I want to start almost from the end. Last year, Florida went from finalist to champs. There are a lot of people that think Edmonton is going to do that again, and I understand why. They have so much talent, especially at the top. But do they have the defense and the goaltending to do that?
I don't think so. And I'm amazed at the amount of people that have picked Edmonton. It's almost unanimous across the board that they're a lock to win the West, and they're going to win the Stanley Cup. They could, but so could so many other teams. And I think when I say that, Adam, I mean, like, I don't understand how it's unanimous.
Right.
Because if it's unanimous, that means they're cut above everybody else. And I don't think that's the case at all. They have amazing world-class players, two exceptional players. They can lean on those players, and those players, McDavid and Draisaitl, can take over a game and own it. They've added to their offense with Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. But there's some injury situations that have crept into Arvidsson's career lately that put him in question, and there's Skinner's career overall, which I know he can score, but I think people in this market are familiar with his total game. So I don't know if necessarily they can just rely on outscoring their problems, and they lost some significance on the back end, and they lost two really good young players in Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, who were offer-sheeted by St. Louis. And they like those players a lot. And then there's Stuart Skinner in goal. And last night they lost their opener 6-0. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that has always been, like, I understand. And Skinner eventually played very well in the playoffs last year. And their defense maybe was better than it maybe should have been. But ultimately it comes down to McDavid and Draisaitl are so good that they might be enough at some level,
might be
to erase all of that. And because they certainly play a lot. I personally like Dallas in the West. Who do you like in the West?
Dallas. Yeah, and we didn't rehearse this.
No, we did not. How about that?
Yeah, I was put on the spot Saturday night. We did a rehearsal game for Amazon in Toronto, and they asked us a lot of social media questions, and they asked me for a Stanley Cup pick, and I picked Dallas. So I had them last year too, and I had them in the third round against Edmonton, and they were right there. And top to bottom, there are not a lot of cracks with that team. They can score, they can defend, they get exceptional goaltending when needed. They're deep, they're heavy. They're well coached. There's a lot of things in play there. So I think they are the team in the West, in my opinion. Yeah,
and to me, Dallas is like the counter-punching team, and it works for them that they seem to just capitalize. My experience watching basically the last 6 years of Hurricanes versus the Stars has been when you make a mistake, they kill you for it. That to me that's their MO. We don't necessarily have the puck a lot. We don't shoot a ton, but when we do, we make you pay for your mistakes. That's the way they've always been to me.
Right. And then the only thing they run into every once in a while is they dry up a little bit, and they're gonna turn the page with some younger players. And they were still relying on Joe Pavelski last year to be a top 6 player, and now he's gone.
Right.
So they're going to ask a Logan Stankoven and a Maverick Bourque to kind of pick it up and deliver on what looks like a ton of promise. And if that happens, that's really going to augment their lineup, and they're going to be in a really good place.
John Forslund, the voice of hockey, is joining us. Also the voice of the Seattle Kraken, Prime Monday in Canada, TNT on the NHL on TNT as well. So let me bring this to the East, and there are two teams with new coaches that I think a lot is expected of. One is Toronto with Craig Berube. It didn't go well last night. The other is New Jersey with Sheldon Keefe. I've never been a fan of Sheldon Keefe. Greg Wyshynski yesterday thinks that Keefe is the perfect coach for the Devils. He may be right. And the Devils are off to a 2-0 start. They played great in Czechia in the 2 games against the Sabres. How do you see those two teams with new coaching situations?
Well, the Toronto market and the Toronto situation can always cloud anything, right? So it's an over-the-top, hockey-centric place, as we all know, that overrates everything, that has parades when they win and wants to fire everybody when they lose a regular season game. So somewhere in the middle is Sheldon Keefe and the job he did. I think he did an admirable job there. I don't think it was all on him. I do think they had to change it a little bit and do something. There's only so much you can do when you're locked into so many different quartet of players that command most of your salary cap. You're trying to fix your defense. You're trying to find goaltending, and it's hard to do when you have financial constraints. So that's been the issue with Toronto. They moved Keefe out. A lot of people that I talk to within coaching circles around the NHL rave about him, and I think this is the perfect opportunity. He goes to a new team that made a ton of changes, that underperformed last year, that's still very young in terms of their overall roster, that has a ton of speed, and if they get goaltending, that's going to be the big breakthrough team, the New Jersey Devils, in my opinion, this season, okay? I think they're going to have a great year. Craig Berube is a sheriff, as you know, and is a no-nonsense guy, and will come in there and ask his players to compete and ask his players to dig in a little bit better defensively, which I think they were, but it'll just be a different approach, and I think they're going to enjoy playing for him. I was in and around Toronto just on Saturday, and there's great anticipation, but there's also a different type of commitment, and I asked Craig about it the morning of the game, and he said, you know what, I never realized the work ethic that Matthews, Marner, Nylander, just those 3 kids have, because they're viewed as ultra-talented players, and sometimes we lose in the translation maybe how hard they want it because they haven't been able to get it, and how hard they work. So if they commit to that and they get goaltending, which is a fair question mark, I think they've made enough changes on defense, and I think they have support in some good young players like Matthew Nyes and Bobby McMahon. Each guy had 15 goals last year. That will support the lineup, support the top end. And then, Marner's in the last year of his contract. How does that play out? And John Tavares is in the last year of his contract. How does that play out? What I mean by that, Adam, is how does it play out in the media? Because the media takes over in that market and controls narratives and controls, whether there's potential distractions or not. So those are the things that I think Craig Berube can really manage. I think he's the perfect coach for the market. He's going to stand there every day. He's going to answer questions. He's going to command respect. If he doesn't like a question, he's going to fire back. And I'm not sure Keefe ever did that. Okay, I think he was pretty political over the years until he would snap in the playoffs. So the regular season is going to be really important for the Maple Leafs. I like their team. I think they're going to be good.
The real quick about the Devils before we move to this team that's going to open up the season tomorrow night. My only question about them, because I think that top to bottom they might have the best roster in the Eastern Conference, is Jacob Markstrom, Jake Allen in goal. I know it's better than last year, significantly better because it was so bad last year. But Markstrom in his career has been, it's been up and down. And I think he has been more good than exceptional at any point in his career. He certainly had some good years, but he has had a lot of years that are just kind of okay. And I think that it's hard to win a Stanley Cup with just okay.
I totally agree. And by saying that they're breakthrough, I just think they vastly improve on what they rolled out last year, and they have to stay injury-free, and Jack Hughes has to be more durable than he's been. So I think they make it. I think they make the playoffs. The best goaltender is Igor Shesterkin. We're not going to make any mistake about that.
Just ask him.
And well, then that's okay. They can do whatever they want to do. The goalie market is changing. The salary cap is going north. So these things will happen. But I have the Rangers as the Eastern winner.
Okay.
And I know that's going to bother people in this market, but that's okay. I'll get through that. But anyway, I really like and this might be their last kick. You know, is it going to be enough? But they're right there. They're very similar where the Canes were last year at this time with the previous group. That was the group to win. And we'll see how this team performs, the Hurricanes. But I really like the Rangers again. I think they're gonna go, and they're still injured. I mean, they're starting the season without Ryan Lindgren on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? When they get the full complement back and Shesterkin's situation put to bed, and even if it isn't, he's going to play for a contract. That's the kind of guy you want playing for a contract. So we'll see where it goes.
Turning down $11 million a year that's next level. All right, to the Carolina Hurricanes. I mentioned we talked to Greg Wyshynski yesterday. He picks the Hurricanes to miss the playoffs. I actually think they're the third best team behind the Devils and the Rangers in the Metropolitan Division. I like them better than the Islanders. I think Washington could be interesting, but I think that we might just see three teams from the Metropolitan Division get in, because I think there's a lot more questions of good teams in the Atlantic Division. I just think their style of play, the way they go about their business, is conducive to winning a lot of games. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they're as good as Necas and Svechnikov improve, as good as the defense can maybe not be dramatically worse than it was a year ago, and Pyotr Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson.
I believe they're a playoff team. And by saying that, you know, it's interesting where this goes. For me, the challenge for this team is going to be how they handle being that. And you know what? Being a playoff team in the NHL is a compliment.
Yeah.
It's hard to make the playoffs. So if you're talking about teams that you feel can make the playoffs right now, then that's a good thing. But the Hurricanes and the core of that group are coming off 6 years of exceptional play, of dominant play in the regular season. And, you know, a couple of years where, you know, it was potentially deep to the third round, and other years where not as deep as it should have gone. So my point here is this. If the Canes play with a burr, if Rod can get them to play to their talents, which I think is a given, but play with less arrogance. And I don't mean that to disparage them. What I mean is I think they're pretty arrogant about their style and how they can roll out there and just win. I don't think it's going to be easy. And I think there's going to be a push from Philadelphia and Washington and maybe the Islanders. It's a push. Is it going to be good enough? I don't think so, but we don't know so. And last year we knew so. I mean, last year we're talking about the Canes winning the division and winning the Stanley Cup.
Right.
It's not fair to say they can win the Stanley Cup this year, and that's not a knock. It's just a fact, in my opinion. So I think it's a fact they can make the playoffs, and they can do it, and maybe do it differently, because to me, that's the only thing holding them back, is you got to really – Aho's got another level in his game.
Yep.
He's got another level in his game. He can get there. He has the abilities. There's no question about it, but he's got another level of compete that was there early in his career when I was still doing this, and I think over time has kind of, for whatever reason, gone away till when you ask for it in the postseason, it's not there. Same with Necas, and the same with Svech. He's got to clean his game up. He's got to stay out of the penalty box. He's got to play hard-nosed north and south hockey and forget everything else. But, you know, arrogance creeps into a hockey player's mindset when they think they're better than the other side, which is fair when you have more talent, when you're used to winning, because with winning comes arrogance. If you go back to the 80s and the old Edmonton Oilers, that's how they did it. But you know what? If it's held in check and they can use it as motivation, then they're going to get more. And then, to your point, Gostisbehere, Walker replacements, how do they fit? How does that work? Orlov a little bit better. Chatfield had a great year last year. Burns is older. You know, what's that going to look like? Slavin is Slavin. Okay, there's your back end. The goalies are good. The goalies, maybe it's Kochetkov who gets to the next level this season. We'll see. It's a good team. It's a very, very good team. But with any kind of faltering and not being able to handle that kind of adversity, who knows? Maybe that's where some pundits feel they might miss.
Yeah,
it's fair.
There's not as many places to pick up the slack as there was a year ago. There's no Teuvo Teravainen. There's no Steph Nason, right? So, yeah, so it's because I've been saying this all the time. The biggest improvement for the Hurricanes will always come from within. So they need Aho to take even another step forward. Jarvis needs to be the second half of the season. That needs to be the entire season. And we need to see the best of what Martin Necas and Andrei Svechnikov have to offer. If those four guys take steps forward, I think Carolina will be fine in terms of making the playoffs and maybe even a little dangerous. Of course, they'll still need somebody else. And maybe it'll be that kid Jackson Blake, who has played his way onto the roster. He was fun. He was one of their best players in the preseason.
That's good, and I think they've drafted well, and it shows. And they show up well in preseason. They show up well in prospect situations, and across the board. So that's all good. But it all has to come together, under the auspices of what they have right now. And that's led by Jordan Staal, who again isn't getting younger either. He's gonna have to be a heavy, dynamic player, but hopefully he can play to his slot, which would be the 3C. And one player as a gray area we didn't talk about is number 82. Yeah. So Jesperi Kotkaniemi, this is a big season for him.
They are counting on him being good. They don't need him to be great. If he wins 54% of his faceoffs and plays well defensively, I think it will be fine. But he's got to at least start at that spot. John Forslund, the best there is. Let's see. Seattle Kraken hockey. Prime Monday in Canada. NHL on TNT. Sports USA Radio, and available for weddings and bar mitzvahs if you need them.
And I'm always available to talk to you.
I understand.
Always.
I thank you so much for that. Oh, man, now I want wings.
Yes. Oh, man. Now I want gold.
Thanks, John. I'll talk to you later.
The new bit. Take care.
Take care. John Forslund here on the Adam Gold Show.